If you are in the ICP community, you've definitely seen this interview.
What is the most promising ETH competitor in your eyes?
I tend to find Dfinity pretty technically competent.
Vitalik basically gives a shout out to Dominic and the Dfinity Foundation, on which the interviewer has a very salty reaction.
He was also on my show. I don't know if he would use the word competent to describe that interview, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I looked for the original interview to find out what she is talking about.
Bitcoin mining process has long been credited with giving the Bitcoin network its security. So does Dfinity give up anything in terms of security?
The Bitcoin community is obviously very keen to make the case for proof of work. I personally believe it's not very secure, and Dfinity will be much more secure. I wouldn't be satisfied.
But what makes it secure?
Well, I mean, I think I forget the numbers, but, there's studies out there that show that, with an investment of, say, $100 million, you could easily overwhelm, easily achieve 51% of the hash power of the Bitcoin network.
Wait, just for the mining equipment or including the electricity?
I mean, if someone bought the equipment, got the agreements with the electricity providers and, turned it on and switched off the Bitcoin network for a day, well, the Bitcoin network's probably toast.
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't understand how you would turn off the Bitcoin network for a day just by buying mining equipment. That doesn't make sense to me.
So if you control 51%, actually, you don't even need that, of the hashing power in the Bitcoin network, and you're an adversary, you can turn it off. You can break the protocol, so the protocol won't produce agreement anymore. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, it's still different from turning off. I thought you were being literal.
No, it's not. No, I mean, well, I mean, the mining. I mean, everybody else. Let's say you had 51%, the 49% would still have their mining equipment, but you could effectively turn off the network in the sense that it wouldn't be processing transactions anymore.
Okay, but so to go back to Dfinity, so I understand that you are able to get the same kind of randomness as proof of work without the expenditure of electricity. But then how does the security come in?
So, we're using just more advanced computer science. So even if the adversary controlled 100% of the network, they couldn't manipulate that sequence of random numbers. It's unmanipulable.
But if they are controlling 100% of them, then for each block reward they get, couldn't they, exclude certain transactions and only include certain ones or, whatever it might be, or no?
If you were an adversary wanting to attack the Dfinity network, let's say you were some, a James Bond villain, you would have to acquire that stake and then use it to break the network. But in the process of doing so, you would be destroying your own investment.
Yeah,
so
I mean, this is all.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't actually that different from Bitcoin, because a lot of people say if somebody attacked the network, then of course the value of Bitcoin would drop, and so the benefit that they would get from attacking the network the financial benefit wouldn't be there. And it's similar with staking. But actually, let's talk about the staking.
Yeah, just one last piece there. I mean, there's many other differences. So, I mean, it's true that Bitcoin has some nice properties, but they're very basic, frankly. I mean, one of the problems is that because of the pooling of mining, in practice, the network is driven by a relatively small number of participants. And by contrast, for example, with Dfinity, the network will launch with tens of thousands of individual participants. It would be much harder because it's a much more distributed and decentralized network than you see today.
What I don't understand is why would you expect that you wouldn't still also end up with mining pools in Dfinity?
Well, because there's no economic advantage. So Dfinity doesn't work like Bitcoin. There's no proof of work. So it's difficult to draw lessons from a very simple proof of work system and apply them to the Dfinity network. Hashing has no functional purpose, remember. Right?
Okay,
it's just what you're doing is just burning as much electricity as you can to try and increase your chances of getting the next block reward.
Right, which has the side benefit of adding security to the network. So let's move on to.
Well, but Laura, just to be clear, we don't believe that just having a competition to burn electricity that doesn't mean that's not scientific evidence that this design produces the best security for a decentralized network. It definitely doesn't.
Now look, This just sounds to me like there is a bit of back bias involved, because Dominic is basically very critical over the security of the Bitcoin network. The rest of the interview is very similar. She seems very agitated throughout, and she has a bit of a bitchy attitude towards Dominic. But luckily Vitalik has a good comeback in the Ethereum interview. Check it out.
Dominic's got like really great stuff on things like threshold signatures and distributed key generation, and like he does Dfinity does really contribute to kind of the leading edge of the space, and that's something that I really respect.
When I was learning about like the beacon chain and all that, I was like, oh, this sounds like Dfinity.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of cross-pollination.
Dominic and I, we don't want to use the word competitor. We use the possibly euphemism, but possibly kind of aspirational term sister network.
Okay.